That explains, I think, some of the fantastic visuals of your adventure, down even
Right.
to the page numbers and the page level.
Oh yeah, I gotta give a shout out while I can remember this, because while I laid out everything and I designed everything, the background page layout with the beautiful blue, the header and all that, and was Rick Hershey of Fat Goblin Games, and this is for you and for anybody that knows how to do InDesign. He creates the most beautiful ready-made InDesign templates that are so self-explanatory. All you got to do is type the stuff in. He puts in enough pages and elements on the template, and you have to have know InDesign, of course. And I'm telling you, that saved me so much time and energy and guesswork. If as you know, if you ever have to guess at something, you're like shooting in the dark going, what do I do? I have no idea. And I actually requested it of him because I saw him on Drive-Thru RPG, and he was the nicest guy. Without even responding to me for a month, I was like, oh my gosh, I never heard from the dude. Then all of a sudden, he sends me like this email. He goes, by the way, here it is. And I'm like, you just saved my life. It was like $17. So I bought that. So the layout, the template is Rick Hershey of Fat Goblin Games. He does great stuff. He provides some great maps for very affordable rates. So that's what I built everything on. Now, the logo, I did all that. All the artwork I did. Any form of design other than the template, I basically did. So yeah. Thank you very much. To answer your previous question, I kind of was forced out of the graphic design field. It's a very long story. And I'll just say that I'm embracing this as my full-time job. I love it. I've been doing it since 1980. I mean, not as a living, obviously, but I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since 1980 as a player and a dungeon master. And I probably created between 40 and 50 adventures. And my friend Todd Hodis in 1980 came over, this little dude wearing no shoes and socks. I just moved in, and within about 3 days we were playing D&D, and I thought to myself, I don't even know what the hell's going on. And he turned me on to it, and I somehow got the hang of it, and I've been loving it ever since. So to answer your question, I have a creative outlet for writing, an outlet for artwork, design, even maps, but also I am making money doing it, doing what I love to do. So, and the people are incredible. Every single person, knock on wood, that I've come across has been wonderful. So friend Phil Nichols, who's your partner in crime on that Adventure Gamers Workshop, that's what inspired me. Within 6 weeks of observing it and interacting with people, I was like, this is amazing. I know I could do this. So I just literally, I got off your thing. I'm still on it, but I was like, I got to focus on, since I'm doing 4 aspects of the creation process, and all of the interactions that I saw, there were no crackpots on your site. So that if you missed a week, you could jump back in and pick up every single thing. Every single bit of the hundreds of things that I saw that people had to say was pertinent. I didn't steal any ideas. It's not for that, but it's to pollinate ideas for everybody. And I was incredibly inspired that, so I got to thank you as well. And I just literally went nuts on it, working up to 13 hours a day. And here I am. I did a 103-page module, basically all by myself, and another 15-pager, and I'm working on my second and third and fourth one while we're speaking. So
Excellent. So
yeah,
it's a business for you. Um,
yeah.
where did you come up with the idea for the adventure itself? Did you have like a single little small detail that exploded, or did you have this kind of grand vision, or somewhere in between?
That's an excellent question. And the cover photograph, which I happen to have a few compliments, which I did, is the character Moldrin, who after he used to be this supposed brave warrior knight, but that's the outside. But everybody knows that the inside, in his inner circle, knows he's just an evil, selfish, egotistical, egomaniacal, blankety blank. And then when he's finally found out and he's killed, he curses the entire island, and he turns into a warrior wraith. And so he's that dude on the front cover, and half of his body's chopped off because he got killed by a ravener, which is an undead dragon, as you well know. And he's got this axe, and I've had this image in my head for almost a decade. And I would have to say, as a visual person, or for you or anybody, as a creative person, if you have an idea in your head that lingers for years and years and years and it doesn't go away, I think you got to try to put it out there in some creative way. And I did that. And so to answer your question, I was, believe it or not, motivated heavily visually by this one image. But then I also thought of, where can I go with this? And there's a little bit of Edgar Allan Poe in there with the woman who's blocked up into the wall. And there's this little aperture with the illusionary wall with a ballista facing her. So if you try to rescue her, you're, killed that way. But I like this crazy Wraith night on the moors. And it's largely based on just one image, and I just, every day I would get these new things and I would have a notebook and then I'd go for walks and I'd be typing stuff into my phone and just coming out of nowhere. And then I'd come home and analyze it and let it percolate for a day or two. And then all of a sudden just this stuff just started pouring in just randomly, but it actually all fits. So, to answer your question in a long-winded way, based on a single image, and it just exploded from there.
Yeah, that's great. I know I've got a few image sites bookmarked, Pinterest and DeviantArt and others, and you get a lot of inspiration just by looking at something. So that's
it's amazing that you said that, Pinterest, because I wrote down in my notes here, if you're going to ask me anything about maps specifically, you can go to so many places online for artwork, and it's really depending on where you go. You get good, bad, and kind of middle ground. But if you want to see the best map examples on the planet, in my opinion, go to Pinterest, because it's almost like this friendly competition where people put only their very best. You got professionals on there, you got amateurs, you got people that are just starting out, and it is the best resource. Pinterest is the best resource for finding maps. And as you know, you don't steal any ideas. You just get inspired by them. What I do is I'll drag them to my hard drive, put them in an inspiration folder, and I'll look at them for a day. Then the next day I'll look at them again, and then I'll let it percolate. And then I realize that I find myself drawing a map that is kind of similar to what is done that really impresses me, but yet it fits with my particular game and adventure. So Pinterest is the best. It's great that you said that.
nice. I know many, like in different fields other than RPG, in different artist bios and articles that I've read, they often, I can't think of any who don't immerse themselves in the creations of other people to inspire themselves. So I really like that process. Go to Pinterest and then study stuff and let your mind absorb it, and then you internalize it and make it your own. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Nice. So still on the story level. So I've just written an adventure, and so I know the pains. So the at least for me, it was my first one. So for your adventure, Murder on Montellio, when you had this vision from the image and it expanded and whatnot, did you need to go through a smoothing out phase? So you created a first draft of the story, and then, or did you get it? Like, did you just nail it because you have this inborn talent that I'm totally jealous of?
I wish that I could say that, but here is the process, and this sounds so weird. And one of the first mentions, if not my very first one, was, and a few people commented on it, was the fact that you get, at least me, I get ideas from staying away from my work environment. And that includes, I go for walks, I drive, and I go swimming. And in doing all these things, as long as you're left alone, at least for me, all by myself, and I just zero out and pay attention, don't want to hit any deer or anything, you just get ideas that are coming in. And I will actually, especially when I'm walking, it's hard to take notes when you're driving, but I'll have my iPhone and I'll click the notes and I will literally write down the name of the adventure loosely. I don't even have the name nailed down. And I'll write down stream of consciousness stuff. Just, as you know, it's like a jot list. It's like you don't even worry about being perfect or bad ideas. You know you're going to refine that. So I'll go for a walk one day, then I'll go for a ride later that night at like 11 a.m. just to chill out. And I let my mind think about those ideas. And then the next day or two, I will have a very, very clear-cut idea of what to take out and what to leave in and what's BS. I even have to nail down the actual names, and I do Google searches to make sure I'm not stealing anybody's name. And then what I do is when I feel like after about 5 days of taking these notes, I'll take this notes folder and I'll email it to my email address, and I'll copy it and I'll paste it into an RTF file, and I'll just read it right there, and I'll go, okay. Then based on that stuff, I'll do all my visual research, which includes maps, artwork, and this is just for inspiration. And then again, cut out all the stuff. And then the writing. This is the fun part that I think you were talking about. This template, that I got from Rick Hershey for like $17. This sounds funny, and some people could do this, some people can't. It's just, I guess I'm not too anal retentive about it. As soon as I sit and I put my fingers on the keys, and that cursor hits that template in InDesign, I literally just do stream of consciousness. I don't worry about what other people might think, what I even think. I just completely let it rip. And then after that, I just stop. I do as much as possible. And then the next day I go in, I go, what the heck did I just write? And I read it, and I go, that seems pretty cool. And obviously you edit it out, the BS. You keep all the good stuff. You improve upon it. You do the spell checks. I do that about 3 times. And then I proof it about 3 times. And after that, I give it to a professional proofer, and she's just amazing. So incidentally, I don't want to ask for her because she's married with 18 kids or something, but she might be available for some of your people to do some proofreading because she's amazing. She used to do it for a living. So that's my process for writing. So
that's excellent. So you've got a skill really there that I think everyone can develop, but I think you have a skill of listening to yourself, and
yes.
You have the ability to stop that inner critic, that self-judgment, so that you can get that listening coming out onto the page. And thank you for telling me your process, because I think a lot of people could take that process, try it themselves, and then with practice learn to quell the inner critic there.
And that's an excellent point. And here's the deal. If you have a friend that's your proofer, or a husband or wife or girlfriend, whatever, you could give it to them, and they will actually go, if they care about you and they're honest and they give you some constructive criticism, if they think anything's ridiculous. And I showed it to a lot of people, and I got about 6 different comments that were not bad, but maybe you should do this differently. And I listened to them because people that are in the field, So yeah, that's what I do.
Nice. All right. So here's one about the module specifically. So what was a favorite part, or what was a favorite moment during the whole creation process? First of all, how long do you think the creation process was for you? Did it take a year like I did? And then what was your favorite moment?
Okay, that's an excellent question. And I was trying to get into the video game business, creating them yourself. And while I was doing that on the side, something told me, I don't know why or how I'm even doing this. This is before your workshop. I started creating it, and I do little bits and pieces for about a month and a half or so. And I was like, I don't even have an outlet or a market for this. I don't know why I'm doing it. So I just did it. Then I saw your workshop, and I saw you. I honestly don't remember where I saw you, but I was like getting these emails like every single week. Incidentally, it's almost impossible to delete your emails because I'm not just blowing smoke. You could even look at my folder here that I got up right here. Everything, there's no fluff whatsoever. And I was like very impressed, because it's hard to impress me because I got to be so careful at that time with my money and my decisions. So I was like, boom. I got on that thing for a very good price, lifelong, and I started checking all that stuff out, and I was just like hooked. And so after about 6 weeks, I started full intense work on this project. So it took me a full 3 months to do all of the writing, self-proofing, refining, artwork, design, and cartography. And I just poured into it. And that's why I'm not really great at social media, so I kind of stayed away from there, because I know from personal experiences on Facebook, you can get carried away for 6 hours at a time and not even want to.
Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to offend anybody or trying to make people think that I'm in it for just money, because I'm not. Because I've been doing this since I was 10 10. And then, so it took about 3 months solid, plus that month and a half. So we'll round it up to a total of about 5 months to do all that stuff. Now, since I know what to do, all the little size dimensions that you should do, and again, going back to this template, I could put out a 100-pager in about 3 months. So,
Nice.
but secret is at least for me, I put out another 15-pager, which is 11 pages of content, and I put that out for 99 cents. And I put that out there so cheaply because I wanted people to look at that and go, I want to try this before I pay $10 for this big 103-pager. And so that took me only about 3 weeks. So, yeah, it gives you some idea of the time frame.
Nice. So 3 months to 5 months, that's pretty productive. Yeah. And so
yeah.
When you were creating Murder on Montellio,
Mm-hmm.
At least I know when I write, sometimes I get into the zone, and some zones there's like moments where that felt really good. I mean, it might be complete drivel to the audience, but to me it's like I just learned something or I just nailed it to for my own pleasure and whatnot. When you were writing the module, did you have any of those moments?
Absolutely. And here's what I do. I know this sounds weird. Here's how I do it. I wake up, I roll out of bed, I eat, I do my silly little workout routine, I do all my chores for the day, I don't have to answer to anybody, and once I get all of my commitments out of the way that I must do, I just literally find a time and place to where even my shows that I used to watch that I just listen to now, if I could turn that stuff off and I get into the zone and I can literally sit here, and I know you can relate to this, for 2 hours, you kind of have to use the restroom, but you're like, I'm not going to stop. Because I know that even if I take a 15-minute break, it might break it. So what I'm saying, and I know you know this, to get in your zone, do whatever you need to do to eliminate what's on your mind that you have to do. And some people, based on what's going on in life, can't do that. I'm a little bit fortunate in that I can get this stuff out of the way and just literally focus on that stuff. Also, I stay up all night. I don't have to, answer to anybody at 9 a.m. or anything like that. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, I get in the zone by literally getting all the extraneous stuff out to where I have nothing to worry about but creativity and work. And I'll hit zones of 2 hours all the time, and it's great. You could pump out 28, 32 pages. It might not be perfect or even good just yet, but you could really get crazy in about 2 hours time. Yeah.
Plus, you've got your ritual. They call it a ritual. So you have these things that your brain knows. Oh, well, he must be writing soon because he's doing these things that he's done all the previous times. So that's smart.
So subconscious and your conscious is all ready, and you're like, okay, there's absolutely nothing to worry about unless somebody breaks into the house, which is highly unlikely. You just let it rip. That's my thing, and that goes the same thing with maps. And I think you mentioned on your Greg Vaughn interview, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but my perception was one of the things he likes a lot is maps. He's inspired by maps, whether it's research or seeing them or doing them himself, and then have a cartographer do them. I'm kind of the same way. I'll take some graph paper, and I'm just total stream of consciousness. I don't worry about every little detail. I literally just go completely crazy. And if it doesn't make any sense, then you got to be willing to go through that refining process and erase what you don't need, because then you're looking at the second time around, it's got to make sense. You can't have a castle without a restroom. I don't know what they used to call them back then. Everything must make sense. So your second time, it must make sense. So you're erasing and refining. So your second time around with writing and cartography, the first stream of consciousness, the second time is just, it must make more sense. So you're refining constantly. So I think that hopefully adds to that a little bit.
Nice. So where did you struggle? What were the tough moments in writing the module?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I know there's something. I'll tell you what. I know because I thought of two things. I didn't write them down. I know there's a couple of things that I struggled with. Um, I'll tell you what. I will respectfully request that I pass and come back to it.
Yeah, if it comes to mind, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to write that down just so I know. Okay. Struggle.
So what
Because
was
I know I certainly did. Oh, it just came to me. Okay. I am putting these digital files out on multiple publishing platforms, and I must stress it is no fault of theirs. It is no fault of theirs, but every one of them. Let's say you got 6 publishing platforms. Let's just say hypothetically, you've got Paizo, Drive-Through RPG, which is also RPG.
now?
Or exactly now, Amazon, Open Gaming Store, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They all do things differently. They all have completely different ways of doing things for digital and print. So my struggle, and this is all on me, is I can't stand going into something and knowing that I'm going to fail, even for just a little while. So to answer your question, for all 6 of these things, publishing platforms, they all do things differently. And I'm sitting here struggling, trying to wrap it all around my head so that I do it right the first time, and I never do. So the second time around, I sometimes get it right, and usually by the third time I'll nail it. But it's a lot of time to answer your question. So technically, I am not the sharpest tool in the in the drawer at all. So hopefully that answers your question. That's one very big struggle. Also, another struggle is, and I appreciate you letting me writing it down. Just popped in my head. The social media stuff. I've really got to find the time where I could put aside a day where I could focus on the social media and the marketing, because I'm not doing that yet. And that is the only thing that I believe that's holding me back from getting to that next level. So.
Nice. Yeah, the platform issue was a big problem for me for years. I didn't have a print book done for a long, long time,
Mm-hmm.
as I was just scared of trying to get files in the right formats so that the printer POD systems,
Yes.
multitude of them, would say you're good and this and that, and then I was worried that customers would get half cut off pages and the margins rough.
Absolutely.
So I hear you on the platform stuff.
Right.
Social, I've had ups and downs with social and lots of kind of navel gazing at it. One option is you just pick one that you feel comfortable with after you kind of look at, and then just develop an audience there and focus.
Makes a lot of sense.
The other
That's
way is that like I'm a big list builder. I love building relationships with people by email with my newsletters. People sign up for my newsletters. People could sign up for your modules freebie or the 99 cents introductory version and whatnot. And then you build the emails. But let's say, because there's successful people who don't use social media, but what they do is they build their audiences, and then their audiences use their social media for the person that they're a big fan of. So you don't have. I heard that you think it's an obstacle, and I know you'll get through it. But there's different approaches, so don't get stuck on thinking you have to master it. You can always approach it different ways.
right. That's excellent. Those both of those. And I will say this. I know through being on Facebook on a personal level that a lot of people are kind of semi-transfixed by the strange things that I put out there. But very few people respond because very few people know how to take me because I don't really fit in any mold. So at least at this point, I need to focus on doing it myself. And hopefully someday enough people will try to help me out, so to speak, in doing that. Like you just said, the second point. But right now, if I were to rely on other people helping me out in there, I'd probably be dead. But I know what you're saying. You got to do it. You got to pay your dues, and I understand that. You got to do it long enough. You got to, because there's this pervasive doubt in people's minds. They think you're doing it for just one reason. I wouldn't be doing this if I haven't been doing this in one way, shape, or form since 1980, So what I'm trying to say is you got to be out there long enough for people to go, okay, he's for real, and then you're right. You got to put out some stuff for free. You put something out for free, you're going to get hundreds, if not thousands of people on your list. And you cannot look at it, as you well know, as a loss. You're looking at it as list building in 3 days, literally. Then you put out your dollar mod, 99 center. Then you could put out your 10, and people will love, or not, maybe not, but hopefully most people will like what you're doing. Buy the 99 center, buy the $10 one. So you're getting paid for what you truly love to do, and you're just sacrificing maybe 3 weeks of work for a list of 1,200 people or so,
Nice.
So you totally get that, yeah.
Yeah, they're engines. They're little engines that work for you, and they're evergreen. So when you create it once, and then it just works for you, and I don't worry about the price. Yeah.
Passive income, and I am obviously just starting, but I will say this for anybody who's in doubt. You got to love what you're doing. If you're doing it just for the money, you're going to fall on your face. And you know that, I know that. But if you truly love it, and you can either do it all yourself or you can get with partners, and then you put something out there. You create, let's say over time, a year, you create 15 books. That just generates passive income for stuff you don't even have to touch ever again. And you can make money off of that for 5 years. So, I don't mean to talk about money too much, but, if you're in a position where you kind of have to do it or want to do it as a living, you got to think of those good rewards. Because, if you're doing it for a living and you do everything for free, that doesn't make much sense.
No, it doesn't. Hey, you're in business for a reason, and a business ultimately is a value exchange, whether it's their attention and your time, or if it's their hard-earned dollars and your creations, whatever. But that's good.
You got to be honest with yourself and go, how much would I be willing to pay in kind of a universal situation? Not if you're poor, not if you're rich, but somewhere in between. And then knock it down a little bit so you're giving somebody value. I could easily say, whether I'm right or wrong, that my 103-pager Murder on Montellio might be worth 15, but I was like, I don't want anybody to feel let down at all, and I'm very serious about it. So I was like $9.99, and you leave it up to the publishers on these platforms to even offer occasional sales and stuff, to bring it back in the public's mind so it's fresh. So that's another thing.
Nice. So, adventure writing tips. Hit me with a couple of those from your experience. You said you've written 30 to 40, just for yourself and for your gaming hobby. Now you've written a couple of pros. You're a pro now. So, what can you do? What can I do to improve my adventure writing?
Okay, now I think you know all these things, but I will say this, and again, this is probably much more for your audience, but I get inspiration from everything. And how I get inspiration is I am a gigantic book collector. I mean, I buy a book, a good quality book that pertains to my business because I love it. Like, let's say, catapults or siege artillery. Then the next day will be, or the next week will be samurai. So I buy books on history. I got a gigantic cache of comic books. So I got that. I get inspiration from movies and the news. I don't do this anymore, but I used to have a scrapbook. And I just don't have the time or the inclination, and I don't think people even buy newspapers anymore. I used to put them in a scrapbook and keep them. And if anybody ever saw it, they think I'm crazy, but it's all for ideas. But the most important thing, in my opinion, that you could do, that anybody that can do, is always carry a notebook or a sketchbook. Even if you've got multiple and you've got one big one for comfort, like on your lap watching TV, or a small one you could put on your lap or on vacation, because I don't care who you are. I mean, if Leonardo da Vinci needed sketchbooks, I think everyone else on the planet did. So anytime I get an idea, even if I'm eating or lazy and don't want to do it, even if there's in the middle of a TV show, I will always drop what I'm doing, even if it's stupid, and write down that idea. It doesn't even have to be neat, as long as you can understand what's going on. And so I literally have about close to 40 sketchbooks going back into my 20s. And I refer to those, and granted, about 80+% of them are garbage, but you'll always find a gem. at least one gem in every sketchbook. So that's how my main writing thing is. A lot of it's just visual. A lot of them's ideas. A lot of them are characters in my ideas that I could literally hear their voices or see their faces, and I could hear them saying quotes based on their character.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not a sword wielding martial arts badass that can take on 300 orcs, but you got to be able to have that like actor mentality and fool yourself into thinking that you are. You know, if that makes any sense. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but
That's great. I like it. The actor mentality.
I get quotes all the time. I write down quotes, and I'm sitting here going, I honestly don't even know where this one came from. So what I try to do is I establish a mindset for every major character. Not so much the boring piece, the throwaway NPCs, as you well know, everybody has for fodder, but for the main characters, good, bad, and neutral. I have a little backstory, even if it's just in my head, but most of it's on paper in some way, shape, or form.
Nice. How did you deal with the crunch of the adventure, the rules? How did you get through writing 1,000 pages of rules?
Dude, that is an excellent question. Very, very, very fair. My friend Todd Hodis, who got me hooked on this whole stuff, this whole thing in 1980, he runs his own campaign of about 4 or 5 fluctuating players. And he is like literally a genius. So if he sees us, don't be modest. I mean, but he could look at stat blocks and interpret all this because it can get very complicated. And I literally turned the stat blocks over to him, and I was like, okay, can you please do these for me? Because this is my weakness. Anything to do with numbers, unless it's like adding up I'm not very good at. So I literally put it into his hands, and I was like, because I tried to do a few of them myself, and in Photoshop I had a perfect column to do my own stat blocks, and I was finding it was taking me 1 whole hour per stat block, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but to me, again, the technical aspect, if you do anything for an hour that you hate doing, it's like, ugh. So I turned it over to somebody else. That's why I put him as an editorial consultant. So to answer your question, I hated doing it, but you got to put it in there because I'm not a giant stat-heavy purist. I've always been of the mind to let the game master fluctuate the rules just a little bit, not so much. I mean, I had a friend that used to have a +7 axe, a +7 shield, a +7 sword. That won't fly in any campaign except for mind. But I like to turn over that technical stuff to somebody else. I just don't want to touch it. I mean, I'll think of the names and the physical look, tone, and feel, and what he's all about, the psychology behind him, and I'll go, please do this for me. And thank God I got a friend who could do that. So.
All right, so that's a solid process. Find a genius and
Yeah.
strengths.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. I think I'm out of questions here. You've exhausted my card here that I prepared for questions for you. You did an awesome job on the module. It's
Thank
great.
you.
It's a great read. I recommend anyone who's listening to this, other than you, because I think you've already read it, to go grab this module and read it. Just finish up. Do you have any questions for me? Anything that you want to ask me? Otherwise, I think we're good.
No, I gotta say, I know I'm in the right field now because, without being too corny, the field that I was in before, the people and how they act to you, I can tell, they want to push you out the door and they have their own agenda, and I think we could read between the lines. And if you feel that way, if you're in a genre, not you, but your listeners,
yeah.
and you feel being mistreated, you're probably not paranoid. You're probably being mistreated. And I will say, all the people that have helped me, like you and Phil Nichols and Rick Hershey and Todd and my friend Todd here, I just am profoundly, truly grateful. So that's it. I just got to say thank you, honestly. And I highly recommend your program because the workshop, because at the very least you're getting. I've always honestly said your content and your ideas and the way completely different way, other than what I've seen, is as good, if not better, than anything I've ever seen. So keep on doing it. And your thing, Tomar's Crossing, I have a copy of that too. So I know I don't know if it's out public yet, but I got a complimentary. I think it's like 170 pages.
Getting there, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's you do great work. So
Great,
I appreciate.
thanks. My
Yeah,
big ego thanks you as well. That's awesome.
you're a good dude. I appreciate. I honest to God appreciate it.
Great. Well, what I'm going to do is I'll put links to some of the things that we've referenced in the show notes below when this goes up to YouTube, and I'll put
Great.
the link to your module that's on. I'll throw a link just to DTRPG
Right.
drive through just to avoid people being confused. But there's other outlets that they can find, and probably through Google. And I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate your time, Matthew. It was awesome
All right.
to finally meet you in person, as it were, and chat.
All right. I loved it. I really you made it. I was nervous and I'm cool now. So I appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thanks for your
All
time.
right. Take care. Take care.
Yep, bye.
Bye.